Yeah, that's very good. Right, well, thank you all so much for coming for the Bespoke World of Melbourne Artisan Craftsmanship seminar. And it's a pleasure for me and for the panel here to be presenting this amazing house. And of course, thank you, Tiga, for your amazing effort to putting everything together. And yeah, it's really, really a pleasure to be here. I guess I am your moderator. My name is Manuela Millan, and I'm an interior designer at I run a design blog called Meanwhile in Melbourne, which is a platform to share local design. And I will introduce our panel today. So we've got Walter McMahon from the English tapware company. We have Jessica Bettenay from the Resident Avenue. We've got Beatrix Rowe from the Beatrix Rowe Interiors. And we've got Suzie Stanford from Stanford Creations. So there's that. I guess we're going to start with a bit of a background or a bit of an introduction to what you do. And I'm sure you're more than aware of who they are and what they do, but it's always good to hear from them. So would like to start giving us a little bit of a background.
Yes. Sure. Okay, so I work at a firm called Resident Avenue. We're based in Millan, and we work on projects from Sydney to Rowe to Torquay to Mount Eliza. We do a really different variety of projects. Bit of a believer that the story and the client tell a story, and I really like to walk into a space, meet a client, and let that drive our design.
So I'm Beatrix, and so I run a small interior design studio in Elwood, and our main focus is residential design. And I guess our main ethos is the quality of detail and letting the materiality speak in a project, and just basically the quality of the materials. Yeah, that's in a nutshell.
And I'm Suzie, and I'm not an interior designer, but I make things. I call myself a designer. Is it a bit loud?
That's very loud.
Okay. Sorry, I'm the only person around the lapel, so I've got to put my handbag on. Is that better? Yeah, and so I make things, and I consider myself someone who is very much into upcycling and repurposing. So I reimagine things that have been here before. And if I can't do that because I'm limited by the materials the solution I've got to give a client, it's very much about the one. So all my work is very bespoke, and it's all made for a client, about that client. So I'll talk a bit more about how I bring, the soul into my work and bring a reflection of something that's all very much one-off.
Yeah, amazing. And Walter?
My name is Walter McMahon, and I work at the English Tapware Company. My role is back of house. I'm not a design professional. What I do would be categorised perhaps as project management. We offer a suite of classic British hardware on the tapware and architectural hardware side. And my role is to take the design brief and pull together a package of hardware specific to the project, and then to document that and manage the process, the schedule of deliveries, and make it all happen on site.
Oh, so the man behind the scenes.
The man behind the scenes, yes.
And of course, craftsmanship always relates to quality. So what does quality mean to you when it comes to design?
In what I do, you have the quality of the design, and then the quality of the implementation of that design. So if you think of, in my speciality, if you think of a doorknob, you would immediately have an idea as to what a doorknob looks like. It will be circular, it will fit in the hand, you'll turn it, a door will open. But if you want to take that and push it in design, have you ever imagined a doorknob that might look like this? Okay, so this is taking that basic concept that's been around for hundreds of years and pushing it in a whole other direction. It's still functionally, it's still exactly the same as any other doorknob. But aesthetically and tactilely, it's very left pattern. It can fit into all sorts of different contexts, It references as a historical reference. The knurling is pulled off the knurling you find on the stocks of classic British shotguns. So it has a historical context, but it looks very, very contemporary. So that's quality design. But then you say, okay, well, how does it work? What's gone into that? And in what I do, that's the engineering side of the design. The first place you start with is the quality of the metal. This is brass. This is solid brass. Brass comes in many different grades. There's poor quality brass, what we call lower end brass, and there's high grade brass. To get this effect, this mid-antique aged effect, this is not an electroplated finish. This is the actual substrate. It's been taken and the natural patination process has been accelerated. In order to do that, you need to work with the very finest grade of brass. So there's no compromise. There can't be any compromise in the quality of the materials that's going to bring a design like this to life, to fruition. And that's what quality is. That's what quality means to me.
Oh, absolutely.
The ability
Yeah.
to deliver something like this.
I think what quality, leading on from that, then it's quality brings something to be honoured, and it's endured, and it sort of has a legacy to it through the process of making something of quality. Just quality, I think it just makes you respect and honour something that doesn't have that discarded capacity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And something like longevity. In your designs, like from scratch to finish, when you specify a table, doorknob, whatever it is, you of course take into that consideration of the acceleration and timelessness of your design. Yeah.
And when you're working in commercial or residential environments, I mean, these spaces that we're creating and designing and the materials that we're using, they need to work, they need to last, they need to endure family life and hectic environments. And if you don't do it properly and you don't use the materials that will last and that they're fit for purpose, then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And really, we all want to deliver homes and spaces that last and that age and grow with the family and continue the story.
Yeah.
And that requires the depth.
Just looking at the Walters quality of the actual material you use, I'm currently working on a handle for the amazing Melbourne restaurant Attica. And having been commissioned by Ben, who's the chef and owner, and finding a bit more about him and his magic he creates from ingredients and reinvigorating those and making them vibrant, I had to respond by making something, a new door, an entrance for the restaurant to greet the clients before they go within. And talking about, those materials, I actually chose to do something in bronze. But, and that was because, like we were talking about the brass, it's how it responds, and particularly with bronze, how it responds over time. So the fact that everyone who is greeted at the door and touches that piece will actually become part of the piece, because their own oils of their skin and the markings, and if there's a familiarity of where they touch, there will be a worn mark, which you see on a lot of kind of old bronze sculptures where people rub them, particularly kind of penises and things in Spain. People get a bit excited about mine much bigger. I'm not sure I get that. But in this case, I chose to reflect his own passion and the strength and the power of what he creates within in the food by choosing to take some bark from a wonderful kind of very textured gum we have called the peppermint tree, and I sand cast that in bronze, and it's like 1.5 metres long. It's not up yet because we're having to engineer the hinges because it's like 35 kilos or something amazing. So it's ended up being quite a process. But once it's up, I hope it becomes part of that experience. And for those collections of door handles, I really think about it being a handshake. It's a greeting before you get there. So it's very much, it has to have that in. So if your brand, for example, when I made, I think I've got some pictures of some of my work, but I'm not sure it goes at the same time. But when I think of making something, so for example, I've made a handle for the Jardin, which is the Melbourne made furniture retailer, and their greeting, I thought very much about what does that stand for. Well, in particularly the strip in Church Street, for the first one I made, there's a bigger, grander one in Sydney now, but it was kind of how does that space stand out in its street? You know, well, actually the difference is they're Australian made. It's not imported from space and polyform. So I just got a collection of floral and fauna, so kangaroos to mad kind of gumnuts, and made a piece which actually talked about that before you even came in, and had a chance to speak to a sales consultant about what's the difference about their furniture. So I think
that handle makes me smile every time I walk in the door. Yeah, I love it. Has everyone seen it?
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Incredible.
Well, there's a kind of bigger, larger, kind of badder one in Sydney if you ever go there. But yeah, I think it's really, it is, particularly as a maker who actually makes things by hand, it's incredibly important that you, to yourself, that you're actually conquering surfaces and working with surfaces and materials which actually you have a respect for, because it's about, in the kind of multiples industry, potentially you can have things of low grade and you can have your IKEA furniture, you can go out in the landfill, you know, a year later when it's served its purpose. But if you're going to make something by hand for a client, about a client, you actually hope that it stands there forever and it's part of their journey and it represents part of them. So quality is a really important part of that, because that will stand the test of time, and as a maker it's incredibly important.
Yeah, like number one priority, I reckon. Yeah. And for you two interior designers, like what would you say that are the benefits of specifying local designers or helping your local community?
Well, I think that's a big part of it, helping the local community. But for me, it's more engaging with the process. I think when you have something locally made, right at the inception, so we have the design and we're engaging local people, so they are involved, we're involved in the process. You can, through the process, keep on checking in on the manufacturing of it, or they can also come and see where their work is being installed. So there's a really tangible dialogue between everybody through the process.
If I can, the product that I offer is an imported product. It's manufactured in Britain, but it has to be teamed. So we have our handles, our levers and our knobs, but they have to be teamed with a latch or a lock to make it work, to make the door work. We could have imported the latches and the locks, but we don't. We have a family engineering works which has been around since the 1800s in Launceston. And the benefit of that is I can call the owner of that business and I can say, can you do this for me? I need this to be a longer back set. I need the spring in this lock to be stronger. I need this finish. Can you supply this without the lacquer? And they can do it.
Yeah.
And without that, because we offer packages across an enormous range of finishes and textures, without having that sort of service at our fingertips, we would really struggle to deliver. It's absolutely mission critical.
I think more and more in our industry, people are craving something new. They're craving something that is different, and for our clients, personal
Customization.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we're, as an industry, getting much better at helping clients tell their story. And that's how we see it. It's an individual story. It's their journey through life. And if we can use all this incredible talent that we have here, local artisans, local makers, even joiners and furniture makers, artists, you know, I consider all of that, a painter, a metal worker, a sculptor, whatever it is, a door handle. We're getting some sensational door handles monogrammed at the moment for a private residence in Williamstown, which has been a hilarious process. But it's whatever the detail.
Wait, no, can you, tell us the story?
We're working on a house that is dating to the early 1800s in Williamstown.
Wow.
We're 2 years in and we haven't even lifted up a shovel, so it's a definite. But that in itself, restoring and respecting the heritage overlay of that property, comes with a huge amount of analysis on paint, on the veranda, on what was there, the wallpapers that were on the wall, the fireplaces, the tiles, the things. So we will have to engage a series of talented artisans to bring this building back to life. We have to even go to the extent of all the Martin Masters originals, so there'll be no sheet plaster, there'll be no You'd think that in the 1800s you could have ceiling roses or cornices. You can't in this building because it was Presbyterian and it would have been very austere and very plain.
Yeah.
So it's restoring it back so that the story can live on. And I think with design, it's about that story, and we want these pieces that we're making, that you're cleverly crafting, to continue.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
want our children to benefit from that. We don't want to just buy another couch and throw it in the
And sometimes it can be, the story doesn't have to come, maybe it's a new build. So for example, I worked on a project with the Melbourne design team, Hector Guthrie, and it was a high-end residential apartment building. So it was going to be new and fresh and shiny, and there was nothing to kind of draw from as far as the heritage of the actual, what the building was going to represent, more than gorgeous, great design. But having researched actually with the location, I think you'll see some images, I don't know if they're there now, I can't really see behind me. It was about where the location was, and it was an amazing site which overlooked this beautiful old heritage garden that had so much joy and life and power and nature. And so that process went from being specified to do something to start with to then actually responding to the site and saying, actually, why don't we actually take what the outlook is and bring it inside? So the process of going down to the trees and taking the fallen branches which had eroded over time and became characters of their own, and casting those in bronze and making each handle one off. So it ended up being kind of something that was really part of the project, because it ended up being that those handles were part of the display suite, and you chose your one-off handle when you took your deposit, and then 18 months later they'll put that on your apartment. Ended up being, but that was for you. So that was a kind of complete experience of actually working, as you say, to try to look at something and bring, some charm, some life, some integrity, something that makes it your own. And I think that's what we, in the Bespoke artisan world, that's what, as makers, we're all craving to actually do. I used to make work, and I used to go to, Liberty in London and Lane Crawford, but I never knew my clients. I kind of would just dream about what I was making, albeit one-off, and dream about the person that might buy it eventually. And now working on more commission base, I can actually design something for a client about a client. And, that's, and as you say, in the dialogue between your architect and your interior designers and dialogue with the site, all those things are really a privilege to bring something to a really whole. It's got a real soul and a real meaning once it comes into the site.
Yeah, I think what you said about new too is really important to remember, because it is really still easy in a new build to bring that evidence outside in. The handcrafting, we're working on a project for Grand Designs in Rowe at the moment, and it's a brand new build, and everything in it, it's concrete slabs, it's it's the full contemporary residence. But we've brought in incredible craftsmen, amazing steel workers. I think there's some of his work up in there where we've made perforated metal balustrades, and we've wrapped the building in with all handcrafted metal, and it goes right through the theme of the house. And just that aged metal that you were talking about as well, and the quality of the metal, the different colours in the timber, the different species of timber, doing Marrakesh on the walls, having all of these individual trades bring in elements to the house. All of a sudden it doesn't feel cold and contemporary anymore. It feels warm and engaging, and all that landscape is starting to ooze through the windows.
That's right, and it's also the connections of all of those materials
with
each other.
Exactly.
And just that focusing in on the detail of all of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is an important one. How or where do you find your makers? Yes, right now. Everybody's just in their papers.
I can give an example of something it's sort of the ones that you don't really expect, because along your journey you're always meeting people who might be making something, but they might be making something that's completely different to what you want to make, and you then extract from them and their skill into something new, and so we could collaborate with them to make something new. An example of that is that we're doing at the moment is we went to the Lost Trades Fair in thank you. And that was fantastic, because then that's the true sort of artisan craftsman. And there was a whip maker who was braiding some handles and whips and a leather worker. And so we're now starting a discussion with him about making some beautiful handles for one of our projects. So it's completely, it's not something
that's a really good point. They're not always a direct link.
But that skill you can then translate over to something.
Absolutely. That's a great approach when you find something and it's like, I could totally see this working in a different thing.
And ceramicists and lights, like this is really, it doesn't always have to be.
You would never know, like you don't have to specifically look for lighting. You could just find something that you really like or love or are passionate about, that specific craft, and
You have to be open
start a
to
conversation with the maker and starting to make these beautiful things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Walt, what does craftsmanship means to you in today's world? You've been talking about all of this incredible tradition and family-owned business and this amazing background from the English tapware. And how do you?
Craftsmanship in my world is our starting point. Our starting point, or our final objective, is to deliver a package that is very specific to the requirements of the project. And the requirements of the project inevitably are very personal. And so, how do I put this? So, when you deliver a product that is very specific and very personal to the project, and then the elements of that product will hold or will contain different degrees of craftsmanship. So when you think of craftsmanship, you probably think in the hardware industry, you think of older guys in leather aprons who are hitting things,
Yeah.
Well, believe me, that's still the value of the leather apron is one of the iconic representations of craftsmanship. So here's another example, and we can we'll pass these around if you'd like to have a look.
But it looks like it's handmade, even though it's not.
The lever that you see there is hammered. Now the hammering, so it has indentations in it. That wasn't done on a CNC machine. That was done by an old bloke or maybe a young bloke.
Maybe a woman.
Almost. I should say. It'd be by a person, probably in an apron, hitting it with a hammer. Hitting it in a very precise and very practiced and very, very skillful way. But nonetheless, that is a unique piece of hardware. The indentations on it, the hammering on that is different to every. So they're still the same design, you put them in the same space, it's an integrated look, but each one is unique. And that's craftsmanship.
I've got to say that we can't do what we do without craftspeople. And we call them trades and we call them craftspeople, but we can have as much of a vision as we like, but without them,
Absolutely.
we need someone to bring it to life. And so the craftspeople to me are everything. And I think just that engagement in the craftsperson and that engagement in the process is just really essential.
How many times have we gone to them with that idea and then hang on, I just want this, and they're like, right. Have you thought about how that might be made? And I'm like, not really.
That's right. Like, tell us a little bit more of that process, because is the client very involved? Of course, it really depends on what the type of client you are, but you have for the specific project. That do they go to you to these workshops and you sort of the three of you just have coffee and just go over these ideas, or do they just trust you with the design?
It depends on the client. I think you have clients who are really busy and are less likely to be involved, but they don't want to be. Some that are really excited and want to be right there with you. It's really dependent. But I think for most of us, I think we'd say that craftsmanship is in everything. And I think it's really important to remember that you don't have to have a huge budget. You don't have to
just go to the end of the earth to do every little thing. It's in a brushstroke, it's in a tile, it's everywhere. You just have to look for it, and then you have to work with the amazing furniture makers and joiners and sculpture artists and whatever it is. But we really do encourage people to start to use people like us, or to look yourself. But they're there, and it's in the detail, and it's you can add it little by little throughout your house.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings me to my next question: is how do you incorporate beautiful artisan craftsmanship into like budget-conscious projects? Because we can dream of like this amazing handles I made, or a woman made an apron in our house. Like, yes, of course, we all want that. But how do you like select bits and pieces, or like is it totally understanding your client needs and pick what will be important for them?
I think at least try and get one thing that's amazing and it excites you into your project. So I think you can strip back a lot of it to something that's very practical and beautiful. But if you can just have one thing that lifts your soul and takes your breath away, then actually it makes your day.
If I could say, and this is maybe a little counterintuitive, but if you've got a limited budget, probably one of the best investments you can make would be to retain a designer. Because a designer will understand, firstly, how to stretch your money. Secondly, they will have a network of people with whom they have relationships that they can plug you into. And thirdly, and they will help you to identify those areas that you should invest in to get the maximum impact. And fourthly, they will broaden your horizons, and they will give you ideas. They'll open your world to ideas and combinations that you never even knew existed.
Thanks, Walter.
Yeah, should we take it on? We're just carrying
Well, just so you understand where I'm coming from, I've been on this journey in hardware, and it's a weird little niche, it's a weird little part of the building industry. And I've been doing it for a long time. Essentially, it's my vocation. And over the journey, I've got to sort of rub up against creative people. And I've come to realise that creative people are different. They're just wired differently. They just see the world through different eyes. And they amaze me, and they inspire me. And in another world, if I've been born out of a different gene pool,
You're doing what you can.
But this is what I can do. This is the contribution that I can make to the creative process, and I absolutely love it. But creative people.
Every process, because taps and door handles, they're the things you touch and you use every single day. And we have got to start educating people that those are the things that you invest in once, and invest in them properly, and they will last. Don't buy something that is going to fall apart, and if that means with your budget, then stretch your budget over time. It's not all about what you have to have right this second. If you're building, if you're renovating, whatever you're doing, go with the bones, with the timber, with the tiles, with the lights, with the hardware, with the taps, that will stand, that will last your family, that will last, and they will age, and they'll patina, and they'll go with you on that journey. And then, if you need to have more budget for furniture, and that can come later. Don't be so gun, having to do it all at once.
Something I sometimes say to my clients when they're grappling with the budget side of things, and it might sound a little trite, but I say, look, the financial pain is going to pass. It will go away.
Who's going to write that?
Financial pain will go away. What's important after that is that you look at this and say, yeah, I got it right.
Yeah.
I got it right. That's critical. At the end of the job, there's nothing worse than to look at something and say,
if only I
can't.
Yeah, be patient with it. I think it's be patient with, and that's how you get those crafts, and that's how you get those elements into your house, isn't it? With patience, because it's not a quick fix. Working with
instant gratification and desiring.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just proud.